So for our last example, we're going to animate a run that is only 2 drawings long for each step, meaning that every time a character takes a step forward while running, it'll only last for 2 drawings, and each of those drawings are on 2. So in total, we only have 4 frames. So this is going to end up being a really fast run cycle. So I've shown you guys how I did an 8-frame run cycle, a 4-frame run cycle, a 6-frame. Now we're doing a 4-frame. And because it's 4, we're only allowed to use 2 frames. So I'm going to try and show you guys what I'm thinking about when I'm only dealing with 2 drawings for each step in the character. The character I'll be using is kind of like a piglet or a micro pig. I'm not really sure, but that's what I'm going to work with. So he kind of looks like this with a tiny body. He's kind of like Pig from the Dam Keeper show. But I'm going to modify him a bit so he doesn't look too similar. I know he's got pig here, a little snout here. And I think I gave him a scarf. And I'm going to leave it just as that. So, again, just keep really loose. And I'm probably going to have his arms kind of like the fox, or just up here. And for a run that's really fast, I wouldn't even spend too much time worrying about the movement of the arms. And because it's such a fast run cycle, I have to be really limited in how much information I have. So this is my main key pose. I'm actually just going to reuse this kind of pose and just alter it. Meaning that now, so if this foot is furthest from us, and that's his tail, now it's this foot that's close, that's now forward, and the foot that's furthest away from us is going to come back here. And I'm going to keep the movement of the arm minimum. And just illustrate the nostril. I notice that he's kind of breaking form. I'm trying to keep it sort of the same. So he's kind of rotating his head a bit, but that's okay. So again, keep it loose. Alright, so this is basically our actual loop. It's actually a really fast run. And I'm going to subdue the movement of the arms more. And I'm thinking, think of this run cycle sort of like seeing a small tiny dog stroll through or trot through. Their movement of their legs are just super fast. Alright. So now, usually how I like to organize it is both of these are my up pose, and then these ones are my down pose. And again, I'm going to have the pig go down. And I'm not going to add too much squash. Or actually maybe, yeah, it's not, the thing is, he's not really redistributing his weight downwards too much. He's actually just touching the ground because he's moving so fast. Therefore, the weight is constantly maintaining on midair, sort of. So now it's this leg that's touching. So it's this leg that's touching the ground, and this leg is coming forward. This arm, I'm probably just going to have it go like that. So we have a really fast run. Probably going to squish this a bit. So notice how I need to actually, apply just a tiny bit more squash. to actually squish this more, actually. So I'm actually going to, again, very little movement. And then for the bit he comes up, well, actually, yeah, I'm just completing the movement, so. Yeah. So up, down, up, down. So this is our reconnecting down pose. Going to have this downwards even more. I feel like I'm losing volume a bit. So I'm going to keep track of that stuff. These fingers are going to have a slight overlap. I'm just going to indicate that stuff. And this is going to bend, and this is going to pass through. So what we have, if I loop it, is a simple, really fast run cycle. A run like this is actually very cool for characters who are small, or if you just wanted something really simple and crude. I think this type of running animation is great for that. As long as you can show that it's running and there are some poses that kind of resemble it running, then that's totally fine. Now let's see if we can actually make this information, honestly, like stuff like this type of animation, is already great on 2s. And if I were just, if I were actually coming up with a final look, I would just stick it with this look. So what if we wanted to turn it into, let's say, 2s? I mean 1s. Let's do that. So let's roughly add 1s. So I'm just going to quickly in between those 1s. And the thing with this is I have to be really careful, because once the frames read so fast that you don't really see. If I were to even do the in-betweens even half, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to read this frame, which I want it to read the longest. And I'm just going to favor that. Basically, I'm almost tracing it. So my timing chart would look something like that. Or this is my in-between, indicating that it's really favoring that. So again, I'm using the green like I did with the fox. And then this is going to move forward slightly. Just indicating. You can also turn off the light box if you want to. There we go. I'm going to... So for this pose, I'm not really concerned about this pose, but because I want to quickly go back to this pose. So notice how I already have two drawings in the one drawing that favors this pose. I'm gonna do the same thing later on, but just to transition from this pose to this pose, I'm probably gonna add a subtle stretch. So it just feels, you still feel that rubberiness of the pig. this leg is going to extend. And I'm pretty much just going to shoot this outwards. And I'm going to create some sort of arc. So for the first step, you actually still feel the active movement. So he still feels like a pretty crazy character. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the next part. So you notice how you actually feel him flying through the air. Oops. I'm not going to use the onion skin because I actually want to figure out if I can apply some stretching. It's really subtle, this stretch. Just feel it out. And if I play it, you get a very hectic looking, but still readable run cycle. So this is how I would normally approach a run cycle that's only 8 frames long in total. I can always come back and fix this eye that just keeps flying all over the place. But you know what? Let's go the extra mile and actually tie down what we have. Alright, let's tie it down. Alright, let's get started. I don't exactly know how this design looks like in total, but I'm just going to improvise it. Really just figure out the shapes. Nothing too special. Now, even in this tie-down phase, I tend to keep my lines pretty clear, and I have to elaborate the subtle squash and stretch that is found within the pig animation. In the rough animation, I could go as wild as I could with the squash and stretch, exaggerate it a bit more. Since it's rough, it gave me more freedom to do that. But for the tie-down, think of tie-down as in putting more focus and trying to hold down the performance a bit more so it stays on model. But at the same time, you're trying to keep it steady. In rough animation, you can have your lines boil and you can have them shake and jitter because they're just the rough pass, and with a rough pass, there's a lot of energy. But when it comes to tie down, yeah, this is when you have to make the lines clear, all the boils and all the lines jittering and the lines moving around, you have to try and eliminate that as much as you can. If you're going for a more clear and very clean tie down, that is, it gets trickier when you have to deal with designs that have really thick lines. When it comes to keeping track of line weight, it kind of gets a bit tricky and hard because you're focusing on not only keeping the solid consistent, but also keeping the line work around that character consistent too. Or you can pull off a Glen Keane. And if you've actually seen Glen Keane's rough animation in his tie-down pass, well, his tie-down pass is still really rough. They're beautiful drawings, but I'm sure his assistant in-betweeners and the cleanup artists that had to work with his drawings, I can see them having a hard time cleaning up his tie-down work. So when it comes to tie-down drawings in general, well, if you've seen the previous video demos that I've been doing, my tie-downs are really rough. I'm Glen Keaning it, and there's a lot of line variation and a lot of line squiggles, but that's also because I don't plan on cleaning up these drawings. I just plan on leaving it as it is, but with enough information to present or to show what that animation is or what that character is. So with whatever style you use for your tie down or how you decide to go with your tie down, make sure it's clear enough, and also you can decide how messy or how sketchy you want the tie down line work to be. So when you actually see the tie down version of this pig animation, the lines still boil, the lines still jitter, and it's still squiggly, but that's also because I don't plan on making it pristine and super clean. If you want to do that, be sure to flip a lot and be sure to track your animation, your frames. Use some onion skinning if you need to keep your animation as articulate and as accurate as you can. So anyways, back to the animation. Some of you may be wondering why I decided to in between my rough animation and then do the tie down with my rough already fully in between in ones. Well, it's because this animation in general has very little drawings. It only has, let's say, 8 drawings in total, frame by frame, and those 8 frames go by in 24 frames per second, so it goes by really fast. And again, this is a really fast run, so every 4 frames is a new stride. We could have left it as 2s, as I said. It looked fine as 2s, but if we're doing it as 1s, then we really have to think about the spacing here. Notice between my up pose and my down pose, before I hit the down pose, my in between for the between the up and down pose is that I favor the up pose. I keep those legs extended. I keep his elevation as high as the up pose. Basically, I'm almost tracing the up pose with, let's say, 10% of the down pose, and 90% of that pose is the up pose. So when I do play it, you still read the impact of that up pose. The down poses go by really fast because, you know, the foot is passing by on the ground and he's going by the ground really fast, and I really want to show that speed by not by not putting too many drawings on that stride. So like out of the full stride, only 1 drawing touches the ground, whereas the rest of the drawings are just up in the air or favoring the up poses. If you were to apply even halves or in between every single pose evenly, then most of the impact of those drawings won't read. In fact, it'll feel very shaky because there's not a lot of drawings to describe the smooth movement in the short amount of time. So what you'll get is a body going up and down evenly. Its legs are just moving all over the place without any emphasis, and the head just goes up and down. I might be repeating myself a lot, but I want you guys to really think about spacing a lot more when you only have, let's say, 4 frames of animation to in between. 4 frames, 6 frames, and even 8 frames, it's not a lot of time to show a single action or a single stride. And to make those actions read better, start favoring whichever key pose you want to emphasize. If you guys are still clueless about me talking about favoring, please be sure to check out my in-between and timing charts video. And I also have a demo included, an in-betweening demo included in how I think about in-betweening really tight and quick actions. And this is going to fatten up too. this tail's gonna swing around. So when I make the character now, even though it's 2 frames, it's still readable. Okay, next we're going to do all the in-betweens in one. So like I did before, I'm actually going to favor these drawings. In fact, since I didn't have to do what I did earlier, which is do my roughs in rough form. I mean, do my in-betweens in the roughs phase. I'm going to have this. Maybe there's a bit of overlap in some of these. We'll see. Just a bit of detail. And this is actually between these drawings, it's a stretch. So we have that bounciness. So just 2 more frames, but we're nearly there. So there you have it. This is our final pig animation, our final run of the pig. Let me just hide all the other layers, and voila. It's very fast paced, and I feel like I need to in between some of his sweat that I actually drew in. So I'm actually just going to do them straight ahead, or I actually did them straight ahead already in twos, so might as well just do something right now. So there you have it. Now it's all continuous run. I can hide this, and you can already feel how frantic and how fast this run is. Let me flip it back to the normal view, and there you have it. A stupid run cycle of a baby pig running away from the fox. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you gained something out of it.